This is Coaching Conversation by Cassandra Williams. We're going to go ahead and talk about what is the structures that you have for effective coaching meetings, right? This is crucial because in today, we got to understand what does the design need to be effective as an instructional coach, right? We know our meetings are very intentional, which research driven, they are structured for high impact, really whether you're working directly with teachers or kind of guiding other coaches. Our ultimate goal is to ensure that everybody moves forward with the practice and constantly supports learning using best practices. Why does effective coaching meetings matter? So instructional coaches are the bridge. They're the bridge between classroom practice and what's currently out there for research, right? So the way we structure our meetings can definitely influence teacher buy-in and like sustainability and improvements, overall achievement through time, and thinking about what is the school-wide growth around that. I think Diane Sweeney says this really well. It kind of confirms that well-planned coaching conversation lead to measurable gains. And so when we think about what is the structure, we're not just thinking about how do we make the meeting more productive. We're talking about this. These are the things that we're doing little piece at a time to shape the school-wide culture. So we know building trust is the sheer foundation of effective coaching. So without feedback, it's kind of like criticism instead of support. So thinking, what does your feedback feel like for your teachers? And we begin with a personal connection or a tie. So we're starting each section with a genuine check-in. How are you feeling? How are you doing? We create space for kind of sharing without even jumping in straight to, hey, here's a solution. So being able to create space is really important. And so always align kind of what is the discussion with the teacher's own practices rather than kind of opposing your kind of agenda. Now, I did create an agenda, kind of a loose agenda, but really thinking about what are their priorities and how you're aligning what you're talking about with the teacher's individual practices and their priorities. So, begin with the conversation, create space for sharing. Lately, teachers and coaches have been talking about would you rather, just something to get in there to get the conversation started. And remember, coaching works really best when it really meets immediate needs that are in the classroom, right? What are the teacher priorities and how does it meet immediate needs that are happening now? So with this coaching, right, we're talking about, this is a research-based framework. And so, of course, Jim Knight, Sweeney, Schilder, these are great research-based frameworks like the impact cycle, student-centered coaching. It gives a real predictable structure. So make sure you picked up those books. The elements, really thinking about review, purpose, and progress. Like what is our purpose? What is our progress towards our individual goal? And we're constantly revisiting that. We're co-creating goals together. We're sitting, we're talking about classroom data, we're sharing strategies, right? What does that look like with us modeling the practices or co-modeling the practices? And then, of course, is thinking about reflect. Once we reflect and we talk about some of these things and digress, we can really much streamline the next steps. And, we always forget encouragement. How do we encourage them to keep going? Because teaching is difficult. It is a challenge, but we need to encourage our teachers to keep going, and motivation, and keep that motivation high. Now, this is just a sample, right? We think about what does a sample look like, and it really works with most 30 to 45 minute sessions. Some of us are not able to do full 30 to 45 minute sessions. We don't want to take over teachers' lunch. We don't want to take over their prep, right? Too much. But thinking about the structure and to consider that we are ensuring that we cover, the connection. We talk about the progress overview or review, the goal setting, the strategies that work, reflection, and some rah-rah-rah encouragement. So thinking about adjusting your time based on the teacher's needs, but making sure you have in these flow so the teacher understands what to expect next. All right, data matter. When we're using data to drive coaching conversation, it really helps bring kind of objectivity. Right? Thinking said, I think this strategy is working. We can really show evidence that it's working versus the previous strategy. So whether we have student work examples are great evidence strategies. Our observation notes where we're marking some of the things that we saw, videos in the classroom. That's one of the things I do. The video recorder, the teacher can record their own video. Assessments are good. Student feedback is good as well to say, hey, what can I have done better? And then thinking about what are the walkthrough datas, but understanding this really shifts the conversation from I think to what are the measurable things that we've seen and what gets us the measurable impact, right? Was the return on our investment. Now, although I said 30 to 40 minutes, we got to remember we have to stay flexible with the current times and the current needs, right? While our structure is very important, flexibility, keeps us kind of relevant. Really, school priorities change. Often goals change. Technology changes. It's been changing a lot. Multi-language learners are, support we need to provide. Social emotional learning is kind of taking center stage now. So really being able to do all the things and understand and research all the things, but really being able to check in regularly with our leadership to make sure that we're on the same page with our goals. Being able to be versatile and adapt our kind of focus and think about like, hey, we're not abandoning the structure. We're just using the structure in a little flexible method. And then how are you judging that with being responsible, right? What does it mean to pivot, and how can we support our teachers through the pivot, through these times. Now, when we are coaching, we have to always think about who we collaborating with, and is it a teacher? Sometimes we collaborate with other coaches, and that's great, but all this fostering collaboration, we need to think about reflection, right? Is kind of where the learning sticks. Teachers are reflection, peer reflection, video analysis, really powerful questions that could be asked during the discussion to move the discussion, right? What worked well in the lesson, what challenges arose, what evidence, what will you try next, thinking of how teacher can set their own pace, own practice, and reflection becomes more powerful. Really thinking about what is that external feedback that you need to provide or that teachers are providing for themselves, and you are guiding them through this process. So we're all leveraging AI at this time, and especially looking at what are professional learning networks that we are involved in. And so what are you doing to kind of keep that engagement going? How are you talking about best practices kind of across the coaching realm? What are you doing to attend our conferences? One thing I like to do is attend to maybe 3 to 5 conferences a year. At least I'm presenting or I'm in the building. That way, if I present, I get, my kind of fees waived, some of the fees waived. But really thinking about what are you doing to continuously work with others, right? You are not in isolation. So attend conferences, go to virtual committees, local meetups are good as well with coaches, and you can form your own local network, right? It gives you kind of that community so you can stay up to date with your ideas, stay fresh with the current research, and then, it gives you a partnership and community for a shared set of this is your purpose. All right, here are our key takeaways to really wrap up thinking about, for instructional coaches, effective meetings can go nowhere without trust. So start that trust wheel, follow clear structure, thinking about data, use data to stay flexible and to encourage reflection. I think your challenge is to actually select one element from today's session that you can kind of implement in your next coaching conversation. Thank you. I will hope to, if you need more information, make sure you DM me. And our goal is to push and grow together. Bye.